Hi, this is Deanna Kosaraju, founder and CEO of Global Tech Women. So now we're moving into the Indian Standard Time, and we get to watch all of the fabulous speakers from India talk about cool technology and what is their passion as women in technology. And so this next session is going to be on how relational intelligence impacts remote relationships. And this is something we are all dealing with as we work in global teams. So very interested in hearing this next topic. So I'll take it away to both you ladies.
Hi everyone, I'm Kiranmayi Kadapanatham, working as a business systems analyst in VMware. And with me I have Yamini Seethalakshmi, senior application developer at VMware as well. And today we are here to discuss how relational intelligence impacts remote relationships. So let me walk you through the agenda for today. We start off with what are some of the challenges that we're facing working in remote teams or distributed teams. We then move along to the various aspects of communication and whether that's how we resolve the challenges that we're facing. And then essentially we look at whether relational intelligence is the key for resolving some of these challenges. And then the fun part comes where we look at our experiences in the past and how they tie up with the relational intelligence. And then we open it up for QA. So let's see. Over to you, Yamini, on the challenges.
Thank you, Kiran. You must have all heard of the term that the world is flat. The world is not only flat, it's also shrinking. Be it developing a mobile app or a web application, everyone wants everything delivered much faster, much quicker, but without compromising on the quality of the work that you're doing. So what this means is that you have multiple different teams working on complex projects, working on complex integrations. What are some of the issues that you might see here? The project teams might be distributed. They might belong to different time zones. They could be exposed to different ideas of culture and diversity. And you might have also have to work with different cross-functional teams, which means they're experts in their own domain. What are some of the problems that could arise here? There could be some evident communication problems. And there could be questions around who is accountable for what and who's responsible for what part of the project. And not to mention, with such complex projects comes a lot of interdependencies. For example, one project team needs to finish their part of work so that the other project team can begin their work, right? So what is one aspect that we can look into is obviously the communication part of it, because we only have that side to work with, right? So what is communication? In Latin, it means communicare, or to share, which means to communicate your idea or to convey your idea to the other person. There are two different forms of communication that we know about today. One is verbal and the other is non-verbal. What is verbal? The language or the dialect that we speak, whatever I'm doing right now. The other one is called the body language or the gestures, the facial expressions or the eye contact that I'm making right now. That aspect is the non-verbal part of the communication. So what am I saying here? For when we are working in distributed teams, does it mean that we only have the verbal communication alone? Does it mean that the non-verbal part of communication always plays a secondary role? If I don't meet the person that I'm working with, how do I ensure I establish trust with them? And how can I make sure that whatever I'm saying is understood by the other person? So surviving the long distance relationship boils down to functioning relationships within the project teams. This is where relational intelligence comes into picture. Over to you, Kiran.
So on a phone call, yes, as Yamini pointed out, verbal communication is the basis. And relational intelligence on a phone call is the key to improve on highly functioning teams. So if you see, what exactly is relational intelligence? It's the capacity to absorb, appreciate, influence knowledge as it relates to interpersonal dynamics. and how it effectively contributes to team alignment to certain common goals. And if you see, we have 5 pillars of relational intelligence. So the first and foremost is self-awareness. How well can you recognize, what is your potential? What are your strengths and what is your weaknesses? How well can you laugh at yourself at the end of the day? So without self-awareness, you can't really build on the other pillars of relational intelligence. Next comes perspective. It's not only my perspective that matters, it's Yamini's, it's Deanna's, it's the perspective of others also that counts here. Then you have emotive and cognitive accuracy. How well do you understand not only your emotions and your intellectual capabilities, but also accurately determine what is the emotional and intellectual state of those that you're working with. Then you have, how well are you able to strike a chord with others? What essentially is a relationship? It's nothing but a connection between you and someone else. So how well are you able to resonate with others and their thoughts? And last but not least, you have managing emotions. So with self-awareness comes an ability to understand, when you get into an emotional state. And once you understand that, you are able to manage certain emotional situations, not only, when you are, reacting to others, but as well when others react to you. So that essentially is surviving, the long distance relationship with some of these pillars. So, what do you think? When I say a long distance relationship, what would come into your mind? One of the few things that comes into my mind is endless phone calls to a long lost boyfriend or a fiance. So, essentially, a long, remote relationship is nothing but surviving on a phone call. So, if you see, studies have shown that your voice has twice as much impact compared to the words that you use. Let's take an example. You have just joined a new organization. And I'm sure all you ladies out there, you're worried about the crispness in your white, collared, starched formal shirt and the shine on your Louis Vuitton shoes, Jimmy Choo heels there, right? But ladies, it's not the crispness of your shirt or the shine on your shoes that counts in a relational over a remote between remote teams, but it's the shine in your tone and the crispness in your voice. So if you see in a remote relationship, it's the tonal language that replaces the body language. If you're aware that you have a weak, strained, raspy voice, make an effort to clear your throat. Make an effort to drink some warm water to soothe it, because a weak voice is nothing but showing negativity there. Whereas a fresh, confident, clear voice brings out a positivity in your communication between the remote teams, and that would really get the attention of the team members that you're working with. Along with tonal language, it's also the choice of words that you're working with. So, when you meet, when you get on a phone call for the first time with a new team member, it really makes a difference. If you just use simple words like, I'm looking forward to working with you, or thanks for taking the time out to get on this call. It's as simple as that. And that really brings in trust within the relationship among the remote teams. Not only using simple terminology, another thing is don't negate yourself, ladies. So for example, I have a situation where someone asks you, do you think this is a good design for a solution there? And you say, yes, I believe that's acceptable. Tell me what you think in more detail, versus I think that's fine, don't you? So if you see in the first sentence, it's a more positive vibe that you're giving out there, and also you're opening up the option for the other person to also have a dialogue with you on more details of a particular solution, versus the second one, which the word choice. It shows that you're having some self-doubt, some insecurity. The confidence is not there. So even what you say matters there. So Yamini would explain a little more of what can happen over a phone call.
The next aspect that I wanted to talk about was the listening aspect, right? So we all know women are always being labeled as, you talk more, okay? Wives, girlfriends, right? But here too, there is a guiding principle. The 80-20 rule can be applied here. So that means that we need to listen and ask questions, right? For 80% of the time, and talk for the rest of the 20% of the time, which means that if you're on a phone call, try to listen and imbibe what the other person is trying to say, and also try to determine in what perspective that they're trying to say that, and try to raise issues and concerns that you have about the project for that 80% of the time, instead of probably steering the conversation away from what's being discussed. The other important aspect is having a small talk with your team, right? Small talk, as the name suggests, you would have the tendency to, brush it away as a small talk there, but it actually helps in creating a bonding experience with the person that you're trying to interact with. And also it helps in maintaining a positive interface and maintain that distance with that other person that you're trying to interact. It could also be like an icebreaker, or at the beginning or at the end of the conversation, it could help you fill that silence after you've talked about your day-to-day work. The other thing that I wanted to talk about was emails versus phone calls. What I have noticed in my career is sending out long emails, telling about the issues that you have, about the problems that you have. Nobody is interested in that. You're going to lose out your audience fast. Don't write emails about your problems. Talk about the actual solution. Grab that phone on your desk, call the other person, tell them what the issue you're facing, ask them if there is a resolution available, provide them suggestions. Whatever email conversations that you're having for 2 weeks, I'm sure, which is unresolved, when you talk on the phone for about an hour or even less, it can get your issue resolved faster and quicker and in a more effective way, right? So that concludes whatever preaching that we are about to do, and we're just going to talk about our experiences now that could hit a pillar or two on the relational intelligence aspect.
So if you see, I made a transition from development to business systems analyst probably around 2 years back. So it was around then that I got an opportunity to actually work in a remote setup of teams. It was the first time where I was in one location, the dev team was in one location, QA is in one location, we have business across the world. I mean, I had not even seen my manager at that point in time. So just imagine that setup. There was a scenario where I was introduced to the team, and we started working. We were delivering things on time, but still, I could sense that there was a slight disconnect between the teams. And I was just, I was just thinking about it, and it hit me one day. And I realized that all the conversations that we've been having on the phone, it's been around status calls or, requirement clarity discussions. And I realized that I don't really know any of the teams that I'm working with. And so fortunately for me, there was one call the very same day, and I could hear someone sniffling in the background and coughing a little bit here and there. And I realized, okay, now's the opportunity to really make an effort to show, some kind of emotional interest in what is going on with the team. And so I just asked that person, so how are you doing? Sounds like you're having a cold. And immediately, I felt the conversation that we're having on the status call just lighten up a little more. It just brought a little more, human relationship within the call that we were having. And subsequently, I noticed all the other phone calls that we had subsequently, they were much lighter. People were in a better mood, and people were more open for discussion. And we always had people asking, okay, what's going on in your life? How was your weekend? And to think that, it all started with a common cold and just a simple query on how the person was doing. So it took a level of understanding from my side on what the emotional state of that person could have been, not feeling well, and trying to understand their perspective of how their day was going. And I saw immediately there was a transformation within the team communication henceforth. So that was my experience with small talk. We have one around the phone call.
I had one another experience talking over the phone which helped me bond with my teammate. We had this project that was all hunky-dory, unicorns flying everywhere, delivered great. And we were at a point where we were delivering just small changes, small enhancements, and fixing few bugs which we had with the project. There was this one particular instance where we had made the change to resolve an issue. And mind you, this project is something that had high visibility because it had to do something with compliance. And to get a small change out from development till production included a lot of teams. A lot of different teams had to come in, test the software, see that it's okay, do the regression, give us a 100% pass rate, and make sure that it worked. Right? And there was this one instance where this small change that had gone to production did not work as we expected. I was really surprised, at the same time dejected, because of all the effort that we had put in, and none of this issue came in any of the lower environments that we had. It only failed in production. Right? So I wanted to really understand what the problem was, and I had a call with my team member. There were two ways this call could go. I could either give him a piece of my mind or really understand the problem and make sure it didn't happen in the future. So when I called my teammate, I talked to him and I understood what the problem was. And it was the reason that we did not detect it in any lower environment was it was because we were accessing a the production specific file where the mistake was, right? And I also made sure that I conveyed what the impression of all this was within the organization so that he understood the gravity of the situation. And that, making him understand that, it actually brought out his true self. He was really apologetic. He took full responsibility for that mistake while this was happening. And it really made me happy to see that my team member really cared about the project. Now it was time for me to give that same care to him. So I just really asked about some non-project related topics. And I came to know that he was having a really tough time with his uncle's health issue. And it was he who was managing, along with his brother, taking his uncle to all the chemo sessions. So I really understood the person behind all the great work that was being done so far, with just a small mistake, and mistakes happen. So it was okay. So that is the experience that I had with this phone call, wherein it always helps to ask about the other person. You not only know the great work that he's doing, but also that person who's behind all this, the real person who's struggling with real issues in life, just like us.
So now we move on to the one on the long emails. So this was a recent occurrence that happened. There was one particular complex requirement that was given by the business for implementation. And it was a little tricky in terms of understanding. Everyone had their own perspective of what the requirement entailed. And for a couple of days we were seeing multiple teams shooting out emails, and every day we're spending half an hour on reading each of the emails that were being sent in a day. And I realized enough is enough. This is not going to work out. I immediately scheduled a teleconference where all the teams got onto one single call. And there, we discussed, okay, what is the understanding of each of the teams? What is the different perspective that each of the teams are having? And, based on our previous implementation and design decisions that we had taken, we concluded that everyone was on the same page. It's just everyone had a different perception of what was the requirement there. And so there's a lot of frustration that was building within the team. But because I was able to manage my own frustration, I was able to think a bit more clearly and kind of pacify all the other teams, and finally conclude with the optimal design and proceed with the implementation of that solution. And so that was the one where few days of the long emails were cut short by a phone call that was just an hour long. And going forward, that the understanding is that probably instead of waiting for the emails to kind of drag on for a couple of days, wait for a day and schedule a call immediately. No need to spend the whole 48, 72 hours just typing away on your laptop when you can do it on a call. Yeah. So over to Yamini on the last but not the least experience.
Okay. The next one that I'm going to share about was about this design discussions that we had. So we have this, any project that we work on is always complex, always a lot of systems involved, a lot of teams involved from each of those systems. So whenever a project comes, there are a lot of teams that are put together to work on these projects. And there are a lot of integrations and talking. When I say integrations, it's just that there are a lot of data that is going to and from between these systems. So in my case, it was like 4 different systems had to be integrated together, right? And it's a new project. There is new design discussion that needs to happen. So what happened was, mind you, this was not even a distributed team in the sense that we were all in the same office location, but we are all on different floors, different teams. This is a perfect example of that cross-functional team that we are talking about here, wherein each of them is an expert in their own domain. So one thing that I noticed here was whenever these design discussions were happening, it was quite unofficial, which means if I'm going to the second floor for some reason, I might meet this person and I might talk about the design for this particular module, right? So it was, what I was seeing was this design discussion was always happening between just 2 teams involved or just 3 teams involved, never the whole team. So this discussion was going on about for a long time, and it even started happening over emails, which added to the confusion. So one thing that we can do here is, instead of discussing it in silos, assemble the major team members who are responsible, like team leads, assemble each team lead from each of those different teams, have a discussion in a closed room, and then go about that discussion. So doing this, I observed that this happened even quicker. And mind you, when everyone comes to a meeting, everyone has their own assumptions, their own view that they want urgently to be conveyed to the other person. They're all in a hurry to talk about their side of view. Instead, it'll be better if everyone is given a sort of a overview, like, make sure that we understand you have your side of the story, but please listen, so that it is important to get that overall picture so that we can go and do our bit. So this even had a problem that a lot of teams were waiting for this decision to occur. even before starting their work, right? Only if the design happens, then can you start the development. So this is one place where I saw that, these discussions can also go on for a long time. It is important to get them all together and identify the clarity in thought and make sure that gets conveyed to all the team members so that your communication issues can be resolved, as well as the team can move forward with their work. So I think this is all the experiences that we had to share. Now we are having the floor open to Q&A if you have any questions.
So thank you for a great presentation. It was very precise, and the stories that you brought to us are very relevant and I think wonderful. So if anyone has any questions, I opened up the chat, and if you have any questions that I can pass on, please let me know. Okay, we have a question. In our school, I realized that people would react differently to memos, that a brief meeting, one interpretation would be different depending on who is reading it. Combining the two has helped me make clarifications a lot more. Writing has helped in notifications, but in decision-making issues, talking helps. Thanks for this.
Thank you so much.
So I want to pick your brain a little bit, because I do a lot of consulting with multinationals, and time zones and these cross-functional teams in different parts of the world it's evolving. And so I'd love to hear from you all, how do you mentioned some of the silo issues. So there's like this balance of trust versus needing to know what's happening so that you can do your job effectively. Can you talk a little bit about what are some of the ways that you can build trust in a cross-functional team in different parts of the world? Have you found certain exercises or processes that have helped develop that trust amongst your team?
One thing that I have noticed is, although you have a distributed team, sometimes it is better to have them come to your office for a few days so that they see you face to face, they interact with the other team members face to face. And that is when all these small talks and, even face-to-face interactions helps in building that trust. Once you have that, you can then go back to the place that you work. You'll be able to carry your work effectively.
Yeah. But having said that also, the FaceTime helps. But if you see, I worked across, all different geos for almost a year before I met any of my team members. So I was working with business users in the AMER region, business users in APJ and EMEA. What would help is, what I saw is, I would have discussions with my manager as to, how does he see the difference in behavior or the cultures across all these geos. So it's not necessary that you need to see them face to face, but having a background as to how people interact across the various geos, in that you can keep that in mind and be sensitive to certain working styles across the geos. That really helps out. And not only that, so as we mentioned, there was a slide on the language that you would use. So just, you realize that, okay, one of the team members, they've gone on a holiday, just inquiring how was their holiday, getting their experiences out of their holiday. It just, it brings you a little bit more closer, and you understand them on a slightly more personal level. And so working with them professionally also becomes a lot easier.
So do you find now do you use video or like Skype or some kind of tool that you can see each other in these meetings, or do you do it primarily by phone?
It's all over. In my case, it's all over a phone call. We don't really use Skype.
It also depends on the organization. Some organizations do have Skype.
Yeah, they do.
For example, our link also has a Skype. So it helps in even talking to people from different organizations. If you have a vendor, for example, and that goes in consulting, right? Your organization and the organization that you're working for might have two different chat systems, which might not be compatible. So it helps if you have one chat system which is compatible with the others. For example, Skype is not bounded by any organization, as well as if that's the first thing for an organization to be successful, is to have a very good collaboration system, which is not bound to the network of your, when I say network, it's a physical network that I'm talking about, to connect your organization.
Yeah. But, sorry.
My experience as an administrator is sometimes what you need to do is actually go, like now in my school, I'll go to the specific teacher's desk, because it demystifies the specific factor that when I call them to my office, they are kind of afraid to be able maybe to really speak, but when I visit them. So building the trust of actually going down to the people, maybe either you are managing or the people you have to depend on as part of your team is really important. So I kind of make it easier for them by maybe visiting someone. I'm like, how are you? I can see you are working. Can I have a minute with you? Something like that. So it really, somebody sees that actually you've gone down to them instead of actually calling them, because they'll be like, okay, I've been called to the deputy's office, and they're afraid to actually really tell you what they're supposed to be telling you.
Yeah. And I mean, it's as simple as that, on a call, you spend some time, sufficient time on a call in terms of discussing some work that needs to be done. At the end of the call, you say, thanks for taking the time out for working with me on this. And it just makes all the difference. Because it gets frustrating, it really gets frustrating when you're not able to see the other person on the other end. And such small tokens of appreciation or acknowledgement really goes a long way. And also, how you portray those tokens of appreciation also goes a long way. On a call, I can say, yeah, thanks for, doing this for me, versus, hey, thanks a lot, that really made a lot of, that was a lot of use for me in the work that I'm going to go further into. So it's the small things at the end of the day that's really going to help you out.
Well, I even think, just even acknowledging the time zone that the other person's in. A lot of times, the other person's talking late into the evening or, early in the morning, and just, recognizing that, they're in a situation that may not be optimal, but they're making that sacrifice for the team. And making sure that they understand you are aware of that and you appreciate that.
Yeah. I think that should never be taken for granted. We do see a lot of overlap, between. So I'm working out of the IST hours. I regularly work with someone that's working out of the Eastern time zone in the US. Then you have the Pacific time zone. Then you have the Australian time zone. I mean, it's just all over the place. And, at the end of the day, people are mindful of the fact that everyone does have their own lives. And, sometimes, each of us do make compromises on, when we have common meetings that are scheduled. And just the fact that, they're saying, oh, I think this might be late for you. Why don't we schedule something a little bit earlier? So just acknowledging that, and they themselves are putting out the effort to kind of make things a little bit easier for you. That goes a long way.
Yeah, I think we should appreciate Dina. She's working around the clock right now. I think I went slept. I'm up. She's still working.
Yeah.
So what do you do? So I'm working with this one company in particular who has a serious time zone issue, and they've actually moved to having like multiple meetings. So instead of having one status meeting where everyone gets together, they're having 2 meetings, and so that they can cover Asia in one time zone, and then the European East Coast on the other meeting. They're struggling with that, but they're finding that people are having more work-life balance as a result of that. Other people are staggering their times so that one group isn't actually having to deal with the burden of the time zone issue. Have you seen any other ways that people are making it more accommodating to have these status regular meetings?
So that there are a lot of things that can be said about all this, right? One thing is to first on the whole project management itself. How when you have a lot of distributed teams, your regular waterfall model might not work. You might need to work on the agile methods to do it more quickly. And if you're having an agile of agile or the scrum of scrum meetings, you just need to have the key people. Let the actual team members come together and resolve the blocks when they are in their own time zone, in their own friendly time zone. Whereas if it is just a status report, have the key people only, so that the others don't take the whole burden. So that is one place where I can see it could be done that way.
Yeah. I would have to agree.
My thinking will be, I think when they're doing, especially like Yamini says in this project management, I think the scheduling part is really crucial so that they're able to know who is available, what time does it work for them. It's really important, and it will help so that everyone is comfortable in the time frame that they put.
Yeah. All right, does anybody have any other questions? This has been a great discussion and I think so relevant. I think we're all working in cross-functional teams in different parts of the world. So I really thank you for bringing this idea to voices and so we can have a discussion about it.
Thank you so much, Tiana. It's been wonderful to talk on this forum.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right, we're going to conclude the session and I hope to see you in a couple of hours for our next talk.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.